How is it going, guys, and welcome to my week 4 PPL match against Miami Rotom-Heat, or Irath. I don't know how to pronounce his name, I genuinely don't. Erathasmus, I think that's it. I haven't got a freaking clue, but Ethan and Miami Rotom-Heat, and quite frankly it was a decent game. It was a decent game against a cool guy as usual. I will put the link to his Twitter, his YouTube down in the description below. And we will get into this. First thing I want to do is quickly go over my team selection for this game. It was a lot different from the last game against Shardy. I'm actually recording this team analysis after I've done the team analysis for the week 5 game. It's really weird, but this team was a lot different from the one that I played Shardy with, because I decided that I wanted to give Reuniclus a go. And Reuniclus here is genuinely a really good Pokemon. A lot of people don't see it as such. People see it as this really strange thing that just doesn't hit very hard. No, people see it as it can even take a load of hits, but it can't hit very hard, or it can hit very hard, but it can't take very many hits. It's one of two things. But the set I went for here was max special attack, max HP, with Trick Room, Psyshock, Shadow Ball, I think it was, no, Focus Blast, yeah. Trick Room, Psyshock, Focus Blast, and Recover. Because I thought that it would be a really good idea to have something that's bulky-ish and can take a few hits. So I kind of just EV'd it in whatever I needed it to be in, but it seemed to have worked out pretty well in like my tests, and I thought, why not? 4 games in, this is the 4th game, and I hadn't used it yet, so I thought I'd give it a nice tryout. Second up, we have a returner from my last game. I've got Collar of the Dragonite. However, I've changed up his set a little bit here, and the reason for that was I thought that it wasn't going to be very helpful for me to be stuck into like a Banded Outrage or something when he's got Fortress, he's got Yanmega who can outspeed, he's got a lot of Pokemon here that can do a lot of damage to Dragonite and really threaten it. So I thought it would be a better idea for me to go for a Dragon Dance set. The set I ran was like, I think it was 200 HP, 52 attack, and 252 defense. Yeah, that was the one. And I gave it Dragon Dance, Extreme Speed, Outrage. No, wait, no, sorry. It was Outrage, Dragon Dance, Fire Punch, and Roost. And it really kind of worked out. It's a good little set, this is. It didn't really work out much in this game, but you'll see what happens. It's one of those. It was a massive nuisance. It was a nuisance and it was a presence. It had a massive presence in this game. It may not have actually done that much, but it had a massive presence. The reason for that was I thought that once I got rid of that Fortress, unless he carried like Fake Out Lopunny, there's not a lot he could do to me once I got a Dragon Dance up. And I think that really like kind of worried him throughout this game, so he had to change his plays according to that. For the second game, the second time, I've decided that I wanted to give Rampardos another run out. I felt like this was a good game for him. This was a good chance for him to, you know, wreak some havoc. He's got like, now that I look at it, he has everything on his team can one-shot Rampardos. This was not a good game to bring it, but I felt like there were a couple of slow things there. Like I had Fire Blast to hit that Fortress. Head Smash would do a lot of damage to anything, but unless I could get a Trick Room off, I wasn't going to use it. A Trick Room or a Tailwind. And quite frankly, I didn't see myself getting one of them off, but hey ho. Rampardos. The set I ran was the Naughty Nature one with max speed, 200 attack and 52 special attack. I think it was that. And I gave it the Life Orb. The moves it had were Head Smash, Fire Blast, Zen Headbutt, and Earthquake? Yeah, Earthquake. And quite frankly, it was kind of the same as Dragonite. It had a presence. It wasn't necessarily doing that much, but it had a presence. I obviously had to go for Lumineon again because he had the Fortress, and I don't know, I felt like it was really needed. I really needed a way to get rid of any entry hazards he had, because I had Dragonite and I had well, a lot of stuff that couldn't really recover, like Rampardos wouldn't have appreciated Stealth Rock damage, and he would Sylveon, and Dragonite was kind of going to be a win condition with the multi-scale, because it can take a super effective hit off quite a few things because of that. But yeah, I went with the standard physically defensive one that I've gone with like in every game, and it kind of worked out pretty well because Lumineon seems to do jobs for me. It seems to do jobs. Like, it may not be the most powerful or the most defensive, but it has a lovely little niche and it uses it so well. It does what it needs to do when it needs to do it. And because of that, it always seems to have some kind of threat. Like, I gave it Scald, Tailwind, U-Turn, and what was the other move? Scald, Tailwind, U-Turn, and Defog. Of course I gave it Defog. Oh my lord. And yeah, it kind of did the job it needed to do, and I was very happy with its performance. But going on, Mega Bannet here. Mega Bannet, Mega Bannet, Mega Bannet. I've realised that my special defensive Bannets haven't been working out as well as I thought they would. And this was another example of that. Like, I wanted Mega Bannet around, my specially defensive Bannet around, to deal with that, yeah, Mega. And possibly take a few hits from that Keldeo if needs be. Unfortunately, as you'll see, something happens and I make a really bad play with it, but hey ho, you'll see as we get into the battle. Obviously the set that I ran with the special defensive banner is 252 special defense, 252 HP, and this one I gave Thunder Wave, Destiny Bond, Pain Split, and Taunt, in case that Ferrothorn Fortress decided to come in. And the reason that I don't run attacking moves on my Bannets usually is because a lot of the time they're not going to be getting a chance to attack anything. The only attacking move people usually have on it is Shadow Sneak, and it has Prankster anyway, so it doesn't really need a lot of priority. The only thing it really needs is a way to cripple the opponent so something else can come in and do damage to it. As usual, as you can see with my team, I went with another speed controlling one. I went with 3 ways to change the opponent's speed. I went with Trick Room, Tailwind, and Thunder Wave on Banner. And I thought that was a good idea because I had Rampardos, and if I could outspeed things with Rampardos, then I would just destroy it. I'd wreak havoc, but hey ho, you'll see what happens. And the final Pokemon I have in my team is Sylveon. Now, I can't not pick Sylveon at the moment. I just can't not pick it. It's that awesome. It's just doing so much damage, and it's just causing a massive amount of damage to everything. It's a threat, and it really carries an impact because people are building their teams trying to stop my Sylveon, and that leaves them open for a lot of pain. That leaves them open because I will predict them to kind of counter Sylveon, and then I'll counter the rest of the team around it. Obviously, we're coming off the back of a loss last week when someone just counter-teamed me to high hell because I played really badly, and yeah, hopefully this does the trick. Obviously, I went with the same set I went last time. Choice specs, 252 special attack, 252 HP, with Hyper Voice, Shadow Ball, Power Ground, and Baton Pass. And quite frankly, I think it worked out rather well, but we'll see how it goes, and let's get into this match. As you can see, Erases are like issuing a challenge. I decided to lead with Reuniclus on this one, as he leads with his Gligar. And on the first turn, he goes for a Taunt, thinking that I'm going to set up some kind of status, like go for a Toxic or a Trick Room or something. I just go straight for the Psyshock because I want to see how much damage this is going to do. It does a really high amount to a Pokemon that has like incredible defense after an Eviolite. That does a hell of a lot of damage. So I had a feeling he was going to go for a U-turn or something there. So I thought it would do me well to switch into DDR and get some kind of like switch momentum with a U-turn. He goes for a U-turn and switches in this Hariyama. Now, Hariyama seemed to be a big problem for me. It seemed to be a massive like threat for my team, and the first turn I knew that I was going to need to get some kind of status off on this thing. Luckily, I go for a Scald and get the burn. Now, this didn't help in the long run because he has the Guts, which means that he's going to be doing extra damage because of that. And that knockoff did a lot more than I was expecting to take, but he's gone for a knockoff, and I'm going to be getting residual damage. So I thought it would be a good idea now to go for a U-turn and get the hell out of there, save Thingy for another turn, save DDR for another turn, and go into Dragonite. Now this thing goes straight for a close combat, and through the multi-scale it does absolutely jack or absolutely nothing. So Kolarov just eats that up, and this was where I kind of made my first mistake. I wanted to go for a Dragon Dance, But like as this battle goes on, you're going to notice 3 misclicks from me. 3 misclicks that really changed the time of the game. This was the first one. I knew we would go back into that Gligar, and I thought I could go for Dragon Dance, but unfortunately I click Roost. That's not too bad because it means that I get my multi-scale back, but I would have been at +1, and that thing was already really damaged, and an Outrage would have been able to kill it. So he goes for the Stealth Rock, as I kind of predicted him to. Outrage wasn't going to kill it from that range, and as he goes for the Stealth Rock, I switch in DDR, obviously to try and get rid of the Stealth Rocks, as he switches in this Yanmega. I actually go for a Scold instead of the Defog. I'm not sure why, I don't remember that, but I actually go for a Scold instead of the Defog, and I switch in Fernando the next turn to take the Bug Buzz, which was kind of obviously coming. Obviously I take like 25 damage from the Stealth Rocks, and Giga Drain comes in and recovers this thing a lot of health, because Life Orb Yanmega really actually does a lot of damage. I didn't expect it to be as powerful as it was, but it really hit hard. Now, I wasn't expecting him to switch out there. I was expecting him to try and go for an Air Slash and see how much that would do. But instead he goes into this Fortress. Now Hyper Voice here is going to destroy this Fortress's life. You see that? This is supposed to be a defensive, like, Rapid Spinner. That just did a clean 75% to it. And apparently he told me he did his calcs and he didn't factor in specs. So he thought it was going to do about 45% to it. No, but that's amazing because now I've got rid of that Fortress. There's nothing stopping my Dragonite apart from possibly like Fake Out on this Sloppany. But I switch out there and go into my Reuniclus as he Mega Evolves with his Lopunny. And he goes for the return, I believe. I think he goes for the return here, which does about, I think it's 50%. He goes to the return, and it does about 50%. Yeah, as you can see, it's actually just over 50%. Now, the calcs I did afterwards was it's like 47 to 53% return on this. So he did not want to risk, like, not getting a full damage roll and losing his Lopunny to my Reuniclus, and he switches out into Hariyama to pretty much sacrifice it. He then goes into Yanmega after Hariyama faints, and that means that I have to switch out because I kind of need my Reuniclus around. I decide to give out like specially defensive Bannet a go because it can kind of deal with this thing pretty well. And he goes straight for the Bug Buzz. Now this is before I've even Mega Evolved. This is before I get my defense buff. It takes that rather well considering it's a Life Orb Yanmega, and that was pretty impressive. I didn't expect it to. I expected it to do about 70 damage. The only reason I made it like specially defensive was to deal with this Yanmega, but hey ho, I Mega Evolve on this turn and I go for the Thunder Wave. I think after he hits me with an Air Slash. Obviously I don't get Prankster on the first turn, which is annoying. And that Air Slash just misses out on the KO. I'll go for the Thunder Wave eventually because I don't get Prankster on the first turn, and that means that this thing is now slower than me. And here's where I make the second misclick. Here's where I make the second misplay. I go for Pain Split. I meant to click on Destiny Bond because I had a feeling this thing wasn't going to stay in. I had a feeling it wasn't going to stay in. No, sorry, I had a feeling it was going to stay in and try and kill me, but unfortunately I clicked on Pain Split and that lost me my Bannet, and that meant that I had no way of dealing with that Mega Lopunny should it decide to come in, because Destiny Bond was going to be like an absolute thing, and now I haven't been able to get rid of any of the threats that Bannet was built for. I switch in Lumineon to scare it out with a Scold, and it goes into his Keldeo. On this turn, I decide it's a good idea to get rid of those rocks because Dragonite's going to be coming back later on. It'll be nice to keep it at full health. So Hugh Huffner, the Keldeo, decides to come in and go for a substitute. I wanted to see what this Keldeo was going to do to me, and I go for a Tailwind this turn. And the reason for that was I thought it would be a cool idea to be able to like U-turn out the next turn faster than this thing could do anything. So you're obviously thinking, oh, he's going to go into Sylveon right now. Nope, I misclick again and go for Tailwind again, unfortunately. And that allows this thing to get up a free Calm Mind. And that really scared me at this point because I couldn't do anything here. I genuinely couldn't do anything. The only hope I had was going into Sylveon and hoping to get a Hyper Voice off through the substitute. So I'll go for the U-turn now, which I should have gone for last turn, but unfortunately I misclicked. The substitute obviously stays alive from that because it's a freaking substitute. It doesn't even break from a goddamn critical hit. But I switch into Fernando now, and he goes for another Calm Mind here. I think, yeah, he goes for another Calm Mind here, and that puts him at +2 special attack, +2 special defense. And this is scary because if this thing is able to kill Sylveon here, I lose. I can't take it out. So all I'm hoping is that this Scold does not kill Fernando. If Fernando lives this, the game's on again. So he goes for the Scold, and it does just not enough to kill. And it does get the burn, unfortunately, so Fernando is going to faint to this, but this Hyper Voice is still going to be enough to smash that Keldeo in the face after +2. Apparently he told me he did some calculations after the battle, and if he'd gone for another Calm Mind there, he would have won the game, because he would have lived my Hyper Voice. But that's all in the past now. We both made a bad play on that. He should have gone for another Calm Mind. I should have U-turned out the turn before, but hey ho. That's a double down, and the battlefield is empty. He switches in his Lopunny as I go into DDR just to sacrifice it off. It's done its job, it's got rid of the rocks, and I switch back into Reuniclus. He's done his calcs. He knows that if he doesn't get a max damage roll on that, he's not going to kill me. So he switches back into this Yanmega as I go for a Trick Room, unfortunately. Now, if it had got the speed boost on this turn, I would have stayed in here. If it had got the speed boost on the first turn, I would have stayed in, and I would have just, yeah, I would have done whatever. But unfortunately, I make a really bad play here and go into Dragonite. Now, you'd think, in theory, that's a great play, because it means that Dragonite can Extreme Speed it, but I'm not carrying Extreme Speed. I'm carrying Fire Punch. If I had Extreme Speed, I'd have used it right there and won the game, because I would have then been able to set up on whatever the hell he wanted. But unfortunately, I completely forgot about the Trick Room and just went for a Fire Punch. And unfortunately, it doesn't get paralyzed and is able to take me out with the Hidden Power Ice. As you can tell, I've made a lot of mistakes in this game, a lot of mistakes, and they're really coming to bite me back now, because Dragonite had a massive presence throughout the entire game. Like, he knew that he had to be very careful and not let it set up, but after it's got the second speed boost, I know that I'm able to outslow it because of the paralysis and speed boosts, but Moreno then comes back in to take it out. Here was a strange one. I decided to go for Recover because I knew I would outslow this thing as well, and this Recover may have been absolutely vital. He goes for a U-turn there, which does around 25%, probably, yeah, about 25, 26, 27, something around there, and he switches out into Blacky Jam, which is his only other Pokemon, it's Lopunny, Mega Lopunny, and obviously the Twisted Dimensions have just turned back to normal, which means that I can't do anything else other than go for a Psyshock right now. I go for a Psyshock, and it's not quite enough to take out this Gligar, not quite enough, but next turn, I know, right? I know that next turn I can take it out with Psyshock. He goes for a Taunt here, stopping me from recovering and hoping that he's able to do something with Lopunny. So he doesn't want me recovering up to full because he thinks he can possibly take me out. He goes back into Lopunny, and at this point I'm still scared that it has Fake Out. It hasn't shown it so far, but I'm still scared that it might possibly have Fake Out. So I go into Rampardos, who's still around, the only Pokemon I have left other than Reuniclus, and it takes a return really badly considering that's not very effective. He goes for a high jump kick, and Rampardos yet again has to play the role of Sacrifice. Now, the reason I did that was simply because I couldn't risk it having Fake Out and doing extra damage to my Reuniclus. I had to sacrifice that first turn, I had to sacrifice Rampardos in order to win. So he goes for a return, and I'm able to finish it off with Psyshock, and that is the game. I won this game 1-0. I felt really bad about that, like, Rampardos play at the end, because he told me after the game it didn't have Fake Out, and that really screwed me over, because I would have been able to keep going for, I would have been able to stay in and get an extra, like, kill death, like I would have been able to get an extra kill and save a Pokemon and get myself like +2 goal difference or kill difference. I'm not sure what they call it, but I would have been able to get myself +2 kill difference instead of just +1. Fortunately, I wasn't going to take the risk, and I made the safe play, and I sacrificed Rampardos just to be extra sure, because a win is more important than going for like a 6-0 or a 1-0 or a 2-0 or whatever. Just if you have a way to secure the win and like safely get yourself across the finish line, you always take it. It's not the point in the season yet where I have to be making silly gutsy plays to try and keep Pokemon alive, but hey ho, after this game it left me, I think, 6th in the league, which isn't bad considering that's 2 wins, 2 losses, so I'm 2 for 2 against some really good players, some really fantastic battlers, one of which I was probably very unlucky to lose, the other which I got completely smashed, but the other 2 games have been really interesting, but hey ho. That was a good match, Ethan. Quite frankly, we were talking about it for a long while afterwards. He said he was satisfied with it because he thought he was going to lose, apparently. He told me that he thought he was going to lose from turn 1 because he looked up at my team and there wasn't a lot he can do. But yeah, it was an interesting game. It was very interesting because there was a lot of misplays on both sides. I made a lot of mistakes and missed clicks and misplays and really bad moves, and he told me he made some really bad plays as well, but hey ho. It was a good game and it was probably a fair result on the day, I'd have to say. Probably a fair result, but he's very unlucky not to come away with at least a draw there because it was a very close game, but you know what, that's it. But I'll put a link to his channel and his Twitter down in the description as I always do, and yeah, that'll be it. So thank you for watching and I hope you'll stick around for next week's game. I'm also just currently going to quickly say that I am restarting up Showdown Spice in the next few weeks, like few days I think, I'm not too sure, but it just has to wait for me to die down, like for my unit to die down a little bit, but I can't particularly do much otherwise, so it's gonna need to take a little bit more time for me to get everything sorted. I'm still waiting for my GFX to be finished, and I'm still waiting to try to understand the format of how I'm gonna do this, but yeah, it should be interesting, and it's going to be a lot of fun, but that's it for me, guys, and I hope I will see you all next week. Thank you for watching, guys, and bye-bye!